This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the UK's #1 coral selling website, prestigereef.co.uk and reefdork.etsy.com for all your 3D printed aquarium accessory needs. What is up, YouTube? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Prestige Reef Dork Show. Today we're talking about the top 5 least aggressive tangs. I'm going to caveat that straight away by saying tangs are aggressive. So they might be the least aggressive, but they're still likely to be aggressive. But this came because I was watching there was a Worldwide Corals video the other day with is it Josh, the beardy guy?
I know who the bearded guy is, but don't pretend I know what his name is.
I can never remember his name. Josh and I've forgotten the owner's name as well. Vic, I think it is Josh. And it was just chatting about fish, and he's really interested. He knows loads of stuff. But he mentioned one tang that was peaceful or semi-peaceful, whatever. And I was like, Prestige has got a load of Prestige has had every tang under the sun. So let's do top 5 most peaceful. Of them. Yeah.
Which was the one that he said was really peaceful?
I have a feeling it was the blonde naso.
Yeah.
Which is on your list. It was on the thumbnail, so spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But there are reasons for that. Anyway, so Ryan, how are you? What have you been up to?
I'm good. Well, actually, that's a lie. I'm not going to pretend I'm good. I have had a very stressful day. I am how do I put this? Sometimes I do things and then I wonder why I do them. So about just before Aqua, so it was in September, I bought a fish system, like literally a shop fish system that has, I think, 7 tanks on it.
Yep.
And I
think I can get this up on Instagram. Actually, there's a picture of you posted a picture of this on your Instagram, right?
Yes. Yeah. Just so you know, you sent me a message. I have no idea what you're talking about. So.
Oh, okay. No, I'll tell you later. It's fine.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. But yes, so I bought a shop system. It has been in my hallway for literally until since probably the start of September until about 2 days ago, because although I measured it that it would go in the room, it turns out you couldn't actually get in the room unless you took it apart. So, and it wasn't easy to get apart. So that is what I've been doing the last couple of days. We have set it up in there, but one tank. So I've always had one tank, which has one tank connector and one, like one overflow and everything like that. And that's all fine. This has 7. And that is not the same as having one, because usually you just need to get one thing right. Whereas basically it's been leaking. It leaked yesterday and it leaked today. And the other thing that I did is I put it upstairs. So it's upstairs in my house. It's not leaking a lot. It is currently leaking, but it's not a lot. Most of the time it leaks into the tanks below, so it's fine. But it's giving me a lot of stress, because if it leaks on the floor, it will come through the ceiling.
Yeah. You don't want 200 litres of salt water in your spare bedroom.
Yeah, Dan's just said here, I looked frazzled today. That's why I looked frazzled today. It's not currently salt water. It's actually only fresh water. And I won't actually be filling all of the tanks up. I've decided I'm only going to do the first, the bottom row and the middle row. And that purely comes down to weight. Because we worked out, I was talking to you last night, wasn't I? We worked out it's basically like 650, 700 kilos, which is probably not wise to have upstairs.
Yeah.
So, but I've done the research. It's in the right places on the beams and everything, so it should, in theory, be fine. But if you see on the news, guy has fish tank crashed through ceiling into kitchen and then smashed tank in the kitchen. That's me.
Yeah.
So, and the reason I'm doing all this is there's a couple of reasons I'm doing this. The main reason at the moment I'm doing this is because I am getting more fish and I don't want to end the quarantine of the other fish. So with this system, I can put loads of fish in there. I can quarantine them all at the same time, and yeah. So that's why I decided to do this. And after that, I will probably end up selling fish. So that's the plan. I'm basically turning my entire house into a fish shop.
Yeah, eventually you'll have a I don't know. Yeah, cool. There was I'm distracted because someone here we go. Island Reef, Canada. You said Canada before. I'm thinking about going to Vancouver this year. Anything you can tell
He
me
wants
about
somewhere to stay. So if you if you're wanting to like put him up.
Yeah. Why not? But yeah, give me if you know anything about Vancouver Island. I like the look of. I was talking to my neighbour the other day. Anyway, yeah. So you've got. Did you sort the leak? Because you were literally sorting it 20 minutes ago, weren't you?
Oh no, I'm still sorting it. It's at the moment it has a bowl underneath it. It only does like one drop every 10 seconds. So what will probably end up happening is I will drain the entire system down. It's easy to drain it down. I can literally just drain it out the window. I have a pipe long enough that drains it out the window into the drain under the house. So it's easy to drain it. It's just filling it up is a pain because I have to carry it up in a watering can, one at like 10 liters at a time, 40 times.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a pain in the backside. So you have to drain it in order to stop it leaking. You can't just turn the pipes at the pump off or whatever.
I need to work out which tank is leaking, and as I said, there's 7 of them. There actually might even be 8. Yes, I think it's 3, 3, and 2 actually. So there's 8 of them. The problem is I don't know which one is leaking. It's basically leaking back through the pipework, even though it's not up to the. So it's not the water's not overflowing down the pipework. It's leaking down one of the threads, and it's going inside the pipework somehow. So it doesn't tell me which tank is leaking. So I'm slowly but surely, while on the live show, I put a black mark on each of the tanks to see if any of them fall. But it's so slow to fall.
It would take days.
that it could be a long time before I actually work out which one it is. But do I want to leave it overnight? Not really. Like.
So what's the plan? Are you just going to silicon the pipe that you think is leaking, or?
Well, if Jamie's listening, Jamie's the first person I'm going to contact. So I was at Jamie's today to get a special tool because it was leaking last night to tighten them. When I say a special tool, I mean a spanner. So I think it was a spanner. That might even be the right term for it. But yeah, so I do have silicon, and I could silicon them in, but I don't know at the moment what I'm going to do. But I probably won't leave it where it's full of water. I'm getting fish on Friday, so the fish I'm getting on Friday, so I need to get it done pretty quickly.
Yeah. So I decided to do my on my last Red Sea tank. I changed the standard diaphragm, Red Sea diaphragm, pipe over to a gate valve. And I spent ages, like literally a week or 2 in advance. I cut it all, measured it all a million times, cut it all properly, so it was all the perfect size, all that sort of stuff. Sealed it all, like did all the silicon, what's it called, the stuff that solvent weld.
Yeah. That's what I was doing yesterday.
Yeah, stuck all that stuff together. It was perfect. And then I went to install it, and it was after hours. It was after working hours, so shops were shut, and there was a leak. There was one tiny little pinprick leak. And it was in the one, and I was thinking, oh God, no, what have I done? But it was in one bit that I'd bought from another company that was, so they hadn't done the solvent welding properly.
Yeah.
And I had to go to someone's house near me, put out a shout on a local Facebook group, and get someone to lend me some silicon to stop, because otherwise it would have been like, oh God. So and that fixed it, fortunately, but it was just like, it was stressful.
Now imagine that, but on carpet upstairs.
Yeah. Oh, good. So, well, the worst thing was this, because of the way that tank works. The pipe goes across the dry cabinet, so it's dripping onto the plugs, basically.
Yeah, what this one has. Those special plugs inside the cabinet. That's what it's doing.
Oh, really? Yeah. So, that's pretty terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's not just obviously it's not plugged in. There's nothing on, and they are special waterproof sockets. It's because obviously the humidity in the tank, they were installed specially. That it's a shop unit, so I didn't do it. But we'll see. Nothing is ever as bad as we think it is. Everything is usually fine. Touch wood. If you hear a crashing noise,
Yeah.
It's a weird thing because you would never worry about putting something upstairs, would you? You put a bed or a chest of drawers or anything up, you wouldn't worry. But when it comes to a fish tank, you know how much they weigh, it makes you nervous.
Yeah.
But we worked out that it was about the weight of what was it, like 7 men or something? And if you stood 7 men all in the space that it takes
they're
up,
not going to fall through the floor.
they're not going to fall through the floor. So
that was basically my rationale with the tank in my living room, because I don't know what's under the flooring in my living room.
Yeah,
it's an old house,
so
I'm assuming it's built solid, but it's 100 years old, so it could be rotten by now. But I was just like, you know what? If you put half a dozen people in that place, they're not going to fall through. And it's worked 6-7 years so far. So
basically, your floor is less sturdy than my ceiling, my upstairs floor, probably because it's built 5 years ago.
Yeah, but they built stuff right back in the early 20th century. So anyway, someone's asked where is it? Alex, are you going to replace the valve in the new tank? So this is the new Red Sea diaphragm valve. So the old one was terrible. It was like click, 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 and you couldn't make fine adjustments at all. The new one is much smoother. It feels like a gate valve. It's not. It still works the same, but you have much finer adjustment than before. I don't think I'm going to, because it's a pain in the backside. It's not, you can't just cut it out and put in a new one. So it's difficult to do it. And it is much better, but it's still not as good as a gate valve. But it's not causing me major problems. So no, probably not. But
that's what I was thinking. If it's not causing an issue, might as well just leave it as is.
I think it is. If it was the same as before, I would have changed it before I even set the tank up.
Yeah.
But so far, and the tank's been set up 6 months or so. So far, it's good. It sometimes takes a year for these things because everything beds in and there's biofilm or whatever. So ask me in a year's time, and I might have a different opinion. But at the moment, I think they've improved it. I would still rather they just put a gate valve in, but I think this is, it's definitely much better than the normal one, and I think it's good enough. So probably not.
I wonder why they don't. It can't be that much more difficult just to put a gate valve in.
Got to be cost. It's got to be. It must be that
negligible in comparison to the cost of the tank, or just increase the cost of the tank slightly, and no one's even going to notice.
Because if it'll be, let's say for the sake of argument, a gate valve costs £2 because it probably costs £4 in a shop. So £2, $2. Let's go American currency. Let's say it's $2 for every single one of them, and their other one costs $1. That's $1 on every tank. If they sell 10,000 tanks, that's 10 grand. So those are the kind of, and you can't just say, we'll just make it another £4, because then it'd be, this tank is $5,003 and instead of $4,999. So,
do you think that's how it works? That was the exact cost that it comes to then? Like $4,999.
No, but all of their tanks are they're like $4,999 or $1,999 or whatever. And so they obviously you want to set a price that is appealing, and it's usually $999 or whatever, isn't it? So they will have when they design it. This is how all manufacturing works, whether it's a car or a fish tank. They say, well, we need to be able to sell it for this much because our competitors sell it for that much, and $999, for example, looks like it is better than 1,004.
Yeah.
So they will do everything they can do to get it to that price. And if that means that they need to cut corners here and there, everyone does, even Ferrari cut corners on stuff. So, and ultimately the previous design was rubbish. The new design, the new diaphragm valve looks much better. And to be fair, I don't think I haven't got a problem with it. I still would rather they use a gate valve, but it's fine. The old one was not fine. The new one is. Libations. Thank you.
And glass.
My beverage has arrived.
So, did Mrs. Reef Dork just go and get that again, like last week?
She did indeed.
She did. Oh my god! Just have one saved up.
Yeah. What? Hang on a second.
What?
East Coast Reaper says, when did you last buy gate valve? £40 at least last time I looked. Nah. No way.
My gate valves on the coral farm were insanely expensive, but they were like huge.
I last bought a gate valve. Recently, to be fair. I'm going to go on Fastlight. If you ever look for aquarium plumbing in the UK, fastlight.co.uk is where I go all the time. It's where I get it. They've got loads of stuff, and they're they get stuff out pretty quickly. PVC gate valves. Okay, I think is it 32 millimeter? Oh bloody hell! You're not kidding.
Yeah.
44 quid. Oh,
What's the largest one they do? Because that's the one that's on the farm, I think.
50 millimeter, which is 80 quid each.
Yeah, that's what I
Wow.
heard. And you've seen how many valves I've got on there.
That's true. It was a Union I bought recently, actually, not a game. Okay, so in that case, even more so. If it were to cost them, let's say half that, 20 quid per gate valve, and they can make one for a £5 or a tenner, then you're saving big bucks. And suddenly, instead of driving around in a Mercedes C-Class, you're driving around in a Mercedes E-Class.
That means nothing to me.
But there you go. So, no, I'm not going to replace it. I think it's fine. What else have you been up to, Prestige?
I had another import of corals. I'm really pushing it at the moment. I don't know if you've noticed. Have you seen more like Instagram posts and stories, and even I put a video out today. I've been really pushing it at the moment.
I hadn't noticed, but now you mention it,
it has a massive impact. Like a massive impact. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, why don't you just do that every day, all throughout the entire year? But I know
what it's like. Yeah.
It's like you run out of steam, if you see what I mean.
Of course, yeah.
But this is when I love the hobby, as in love the business the most, because this is when you get the most people coming, and it's like when I put a video out, all of a sudden I get a load of sales just before the live stream, and it makes it worthwhile putting the video out, if you see what I mean. So then it motivates you to do it again next week, and don't think I'm going to do it next week. I'm not going to sign up to that.
That was a promise, wasn't it, everybody?
Yeah,
that's what I heard. Yeah,
but you know what I mean, don't you? It's like when you get rewarded for things that you do, it makes you more motivated to do it. Whereas sometimes in the summer, you put a video out and then it gets less views than usual and no sales. And then you go, well, what was the point? So, yeah, so I'm really, really enjoying the hobby at the moment, which I would say probably is similar to a lot of people where you've just got back into it. You're in it basically all the time, aren't you?
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I definitely have spells when I enjoy it more. But yeah, I this is not like a thing that I drop in the summer. Yeah, I'm obsessed.
It's like I spent 2 days poorly setting up that tank, and it's been great. Like, and I say poorly, I mean like poorly because I've not done a good job. But it's been great, and it gives you it actually gives you setting up a tank when you do it gives you a feeling of satisfaction. Like I did that. So whereas with the water box, other people helped me. So yeah, it makes it was, I don't know, it's hard to describe. But I go through stages where sometimes it's a job, and when you have something as a job, it feels the same as everyone else who has a job. And sometimes it's a hobby again, and it's 100% back to being a hobby at the moment for me. And I'm getting as many people booked in as well to come visit the farm. I've been pushing that as well.
I noticed that. Yeah.
Because it's actually nice to deal with people one-on-one. Like when I deal with people on through the website, it's an email and I say, when do you want the corals to be delivered or whatever. Whereas people will come and spend an hour here, and sometimes they spend, I don't know, 20 quid or whatever, and it doesn't matter to me. It's just I've been mentally stimulated for an hour. Yeah. So
I'd so much prefer talking to people either on the phone or face to face than email, text message, whatever. It's just not the same, is it?
What is interesting, however, is that I have had recently multiple people there at the same time, and I have no idea how people in shops do it. I like the shop owners. I have no idea, especially the owners, as I said, because the owners people want to talk to the owner. When you go into a fish shop, usually, I'm assuming you will want to talk to someone that you know is the owner. Is that correct?
Yep. Well, I mean,
maybe not every time.
Sometimes
you'll get.
But there are times so Reef Keeper Moss End or Reef Keeper Windsor as it used to be. Ed was known there, and when I first went there, I was like, I need to find Ed. Ed. And I'm not the only one who's doing that yet.
Sometimes you see people in shops and they're waiting. And they go, I don't know, I'll wait for the owner. I'm like, but this other person who's the sales assistant is entirely happy to help them. And they wait 15 minutes for the owner. And then they go, could you just bag that fish up for me? And I actually know a fish shop where the owner then will go, oh yeah, not a problem, and then he'll ask the assistant to bag it up for them. So when I had multiple people here at the same time, I actually found it more stressful because you can't give people the same amount of attention as you would normally do.
Yeah.
And that's what it is when people come here. It's like 1-to-1. It's selling 1-to-1 or whatever. So, and it's just a different experience.
There was a coral that I saw on your Instagram page.
I knew you were going to show this. That was your coral.
It was my coral. I still have 3 frags of this that are growing out and are eventually going to grow out properly. That actually doesn't look that exciting, I think. In photos, but with that close-up photo, you can see yellow, green, red, orange, purple, maybe some other colours. But I don't think that I can never get that to photograph well in person, especially under blues. Oh, it looks so nice.
Yeah, that's the Stellaria chalice, isn't it?
Stellaria chalice. It's extremely stingy. If it gets within 6 feet of any other animal whatsoever, that animal is dying.
That's an exaggeration. 6 feet. It's only if it touches. I've never seen it. Have you seen it put tentacles out?
No sweeper tentacles. No, if it touches anything, instant death to whatever it touches.
Yeah.
Coral wise, of course. So it's really aggressive. So you want to isolate it, but on its own, it looks so cool.
It's really like fleshy. Like it's not like the other chalices where they're sort of like they have a really thin flesh on them. That one seems to have like quite a thick one.
That's a classic example of a coral that probably isn't a chalice. It's a different species of something or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's because I've put it next to other chalices and it just dies straight away. So, but yeah, really nice coral. And it goes really slimy as well. When you take it out of water, it's like a hagfish.
Try fragging it. It is not like being fragged.
I bet it doesn't.
Well, I think I got it from you probably like 3 months ago now, I reckon. And I've only just put a piece of it up for sale on the website now, just to make sure that they're happy and everything. But you are correct. It doesn't like. Originally, I fragged it for aqua, and I was like, probably they're not ready to take there. So I've
maybe there's a big piece at Reef Keeper Moss End as well. You can go and see in the flesh.
The other thing I noticed is that the growth around the edge is more gold, and then it turns red as it gets bigger. Is that the same with yours?
Totally. When you frag it, it looks a bit like. Well, I've fragged it before because it grows quite quickly, and when I fragged it before, the frags just look a bit meh. And then when you put it next to the colony, it's like, oh, the colony is amazing, but the frags just look a bit boring.
There's a frag of it on the Instagram, I think on my Instagram, about 2 things back. It was actually the frag that you originally gave me before you then sold me the colony.
Okay.
Yeah, that bit there. So
I think that looks a bit bland. It's got a few colours in it, but that just looks a bit dull. Like I would walk past that coral.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that my corals that you gave me are not good enough to come back to you.
But when you see the colony, it looks incroyable.
Yeah,
as the French say. In fact, I don't know how well this is going to work because it never does.
We can't see it. Well, I can't see it.
I know.
It's really, really tiny.
Yeah. So it's that red one there.
Yeah. My pictures look way better than that.
Yeah. But it looks so, and you can see orange also. It's a nice coral. Anyway, I've been talking about that for 10 minutes. What else is going on?
So I've had the work experience. Or have a work experience guy or work experience reefer has been here. So I love it when he comes because to the farm because it basically keeps me motivated. It makes me like do so much more work. And you know what's interesting? And you will have seen this in the video. He is the one who gets to do all the fun stuff. I do all the stuff that I avoid doing. Things like cleaning and changing the filters and things that aren't like you don't need to clean the filters like exactly when they're done. They just overflow. So I even putting stuff on the website, taking photos. It's good for me to have someone there because if they're working, I feel like I have to work.
Yeah,
and totally. There's certain things which I always do, which is testing and things like that. But when it comes to like cleaning pumps and cleaning frag racks, sometimes I'll leave. Do you know how demotivating it is to clean a frag rack last week and look at it this week only to see it's got Coraline algae growing on it?
Really?
That's so annoying.
You've got quite a few urchins in your system as well, haven't you? So
not anymore. So I went through a stage of setting inverts and then It was fine selling urchins, but the problem is when people would buy them, I would then have to find them, and they weren't always easily accessible. If when there was 20 of them, it was fine. When you got down to the last 3 in a 6 foot by 3 foot tank, it's not that easy to find them.
Yeah, okay. But I guess even if you did have a load of urchins in there, they can't get between the frags and eat the Coraline off the tray.
Yeah. Like, Coraline's good. Most people want it. Someone actually bought coral this week from me and sent me an email saying, can you scrape off some Coraline algae? Now, I don't have the really thick stuff anymore. Some of it like breaks off in chunks. So I just had to scrape a little tiny bit off. But it's the reason I also did a tiny bit is because there is a risk in spreading Coraline algae around your tank. There's a risk because if let's put it this way, if that little piece of Coraline algae had an aptasia on it that you didn't know or didn't see, it's risky. So I did a really, really tiny scraping, which was just enough. But I wouldn't recommend that usually. Just buy coral and eventually it finds its way in there. So, but and the only other thing is a public service announcement. All of those bottles that are for Coraline algae growth, they don't contain Coraline algae.
Do you know what the Red Sea when I got the set up the Red Sea tank, they sent me a load of bottles as well. And one of the main things they sent me was their start. They're setting up a tank. They're establishing a tank program.
Yeah.
And I kind of used it, but I brought down a load of massive, like I don't know, 15 kilos of live rock covered in corals and put that in.
Yeah.
And had a load of live rock as well that was from old tanks, like 5, 6 years, 7 years old tanks, whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't really need to cycle it. But I was like, well, I'd quite like to do both, a bit of live rock and a bottle of bacteria. But part of their system includes, they call it Coraline Grow.
Yeah.
But it's just alkalinity.
Yeah, I know.
And when you read the instructions, it says this buffers the alk. And it's like, well, that's not going to grow Coraline then, is it? Unless there's Coraline in there.
Obviously, when I do the consultations, often I'm doing them with people that are like relatively new to the hobby. And that's one of the things that people are constantly putting in their tank, thinking that, and it's because it's misleading. If it like the advertising on the bottle is misleading. Does people think that they're actually putting Coraline algae in their tank? But if it's not there, it's never going to grow.
No, exactly. You can have as much alkalinity as you want. It's
Yeah,
not going to make a difference, you know. But yeah, and that I'm not a fan of the alkalinity in a bottle. Sorry, Coraline in a bottle.
Yeah.
It'll come in at some point. The trouble is when I set up my first tank, I don't know, 6 months in, no Coraline whatsoever, and you're desperate for it because it looks really cool. And then, but now 10 years in, I'm like, bloody Coraline.
Yeah, it gets everywhere, covers your pumps and everything.
Exactly. So, and it's one of the things because your tank is fairly bare when you set it up brand new. You want some kind of life, and Coraline is like an easy one to start with. So I get why people like it, but
it has a noticeable difference with regards to sales of corals as well in the farm. When people come and buy them, I notice a significant decrease in some of the corals being sold in the bottom tanks where you look down on it. When the racks are black, people will then buy more of that coral than if they're covered in Coraline algae.
So you can see that tray is covered in Coraline algae. It's not quite top down, and then this one's clean, and you said on your video, Tony, it really pops. So it does make a difference. Yeah.
It makes a massive difference. And it was interesting because for a long time I thought, why when I first started the fund, I sell loads and loads and loads. Another one was the burning banana Stellaria.
Yeah.
I would sell loads and loads and loads of it. And then all of a sudden, I don't sell as much anymore. I'm like, why? What's changed? It's still not a particularly common coral. You don't see it in your local fish shop usually. You can probably get it online. There'll be other people that will have it. And then I realized that since I've cleaned some of the racks, people have then started to buy off those racks more often than the ones with Coraline on them. So then that motivates you to clean all of them.
But if you got to clean them every week or every
couple of weeks, but remember, I've never cleaned them pretty much.
Yeah, okay. So fair enough.
So that's that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. No, I don't think there is anything else with regards to. I know, obviously, we said we might get rid of our week in reefing. There was like an uproar, wasn't there?
There was, outpouring.
Yes, even from me.
Yeah. But that's it. I think we'll just have a chat, and I think ultimately if we've got nothing to talk about, we won't talk about anything. But if there's stuff that's worth talking about, then we'll chat.
Yeah, so. and the fish are in quarantine. I'm now started dosing Metroplex, and they've got 2 weeks left, and that's it basically.
Cool.
So, and then I'll shut those.
How do they respond to Metroplex? Does it really affect them, or do they?
There's two ways of using it. You can either, so for the size tank that I have you got your Metroplex yet?
Well, yes and no.
How yes and no?
I don't have Metroplex, but I checked the API. What's it called? I'm pretty sure I do need to double check this before I start using it. But the API General Cure has metronidazole in it, I believe.
Okay, so it just never turned up.
It didn't turn up. So I emailed them a couple of weeks ago. It had been 3 weeks since I'd ordered it. I emailed them, and the confirmation email I got gave me customer service, and it was a .ae. So it was a UAE. So it was a Dubai website.
Yeah.
And I emailed them to say, look, can you let me know what's going on? I need this urgently.
Yeah.
I've got to have it. Please, can you tell me when I'm going to get it? And they emailed back and said, oh, sorry, we can't sell this to the UK. Well, then why did you let me buy it? Because you knew that from the start. Because I've been waiting for you. So I binned that off. But then I looked up API General Cure because I was like, why did I buy that stuff?
Yeah.
And I think it's got metronidazole in it. Again, I need to double check that. But I think that's got the same stuff. Anyway, Metroplex.
I think it is the same stuff. Anyway, so I have to put. You have a choice. Either I can use 1 teaspoon of, or not teaspoon. That's a lot. They come with like a little spoon inside the pot. I can either use 1 spoon of it and mix it with Seachem's Focus and put it onto the food for the fish. It sticks to the food, and then the fish eat it. Okay. Or you can double the amount and put it straight into the water. Now, what I usually do is I don't do focus, but when I'm feeding the fish, I'll put the Metroplex in with the food, and then I'll pour it in. But I'm doubling the dose. I'm using the larger dose, so it's going in the water, but they'll also be ingesting some of it. Yeah. But they don't seem to notice that much. I'm amazed so far that the angelfish is doing completely fine. The flame angel, I haven't really noticed any difference. I am getting a little bit sort of antsy now, where I want to get them out, because I have this feeling like the longer they're in there, is it doing like internal organ damage and stuff like that? It might not be, but is it doing something to them which is not good for them? And so part of me, every morning I'm like, oh, I want to get them out, but I know that I can't do that, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So
and API General Cure does have metronidazole in it, and praziquantel. Prazi-Pro, what did you? There was something that you dosed the quarantine tank that really they didn't like it.
Yes, that was Prazi-Pro. Yeah, right, it's known for stopping fish from eating, but it's only in there for 2 days. So as long as the fish are healthy, even if they don't eat, it doesn't particularly. So
it just disappears after 2 days or whatever.
Yeah, I don't really know how it works. I believe it, like the bacteria eats it. I believe, but there's no facts here. Remember. But I'm from the research I've done, so I was like, how is it possible you can put something in and it just disappears? But
but it does.
I believe that's correct.
Fair enough. Okay. So, anyway, sorry, you were saying, so you don't want to keep them in there for too long. And
no, I know. And part of me, as I said, is just being impatient. But the other part is like, well, like I've come this far, and like, so technically this is not correct, but there is a form of quarantine which is only for 14 days. So I've passed that. And if you do it correctly, you only need to do it for 14 days. If you do it 100% correctly. The reason people do it for 30 days is because if you mess it up, you're more likely for it to be fine in the long run. But so I just think to myself, well, I'm pretty confident I've done it correct. And am I harming the fish? Like, not harming them, like where it's noticeable, more like harming them internally.
Long term,
exactly. It's like long term, giving them like, is it you could be like doing something to their liver or anything.
It might be exactly. It might be damaging their organs. It can't be good for them, can it?
Yeah. So it was interesting because Brian said something originally, and he said sometimes Brian, obviously from TMC when he came on, and he said that sometimes some places have quarantine methods that are so harsh on the fish. You wonder even why it's I'm not quoting exactly, but
it's like chemotherapy basically.
Yeah, it's almost like you're more likely to lose the fish than keep it alive.
Yeah.
One of the things I keep seeing in the chat is people are asking if I'm going to start doing quarantine fish with people. I will not be doing quarantine fish with people. It's hard enough quarantining the fish yourself, and it's two things. Firstly, if someone bought a fish from me and I got it wrong, and they're like, this was meant to be quarantined, I'm like, I've done my best. I did what I thought was correct. But the other thing is the fish will be a lot more expensive. Some people see a value in quarantining fish where they are willing to pay more for them. But is there enough people that will see the value in it?
You'd also get people who wouldn't. My dad actually asked me that question recently. I was talking to him, just like he's not a hobbyist, but talking to him just generally about the state of my quarantine tank. And he said, "Well, now you're doing it. Why don't you sell them and treat them quarantined? Because if no one else does it." I was like, "There's a million reasons why not. One, I don't sell fish. I'm a hobbyist, which is the main reason. But also the other thing that I thought is you'd get people who wouldn't understand it. So you get people who'd buy a fish from you. It would be an expensive one. They'd put it in their tank, which has white spot in it. That fish would then get white spot and die, and they'd be like, "Oh, you told me."
That is the exact reason. Because if someone is buying a quarantined fish from you, it means they haven't quarantined their other fish, probably.
So there's no guarantee. You can quarantine that fish, but if you put it in your tank and you don't know there's a disease, because it's like it's suppressed or whatever, suddenly that fish might succumb to it, and then you'd be annoyed. And there's no way of proving it.
And what's interesting is I will know if I've got quarantine right this time because I've got a powder blue. And they are usually the ones that show first. They're one of the first that will show signs of white spot. So if it'll be interesting because if obviously there's nothing visible at the moment, none of the fish are scratching or anything. But once they go into the main display tank, it'll be interesting to see if I got those fish right as well. And then every fish that gets added after that, I'll know eventually, probably from the powder blue.
Yeah.
If it's right or not.
So that's the reason not to do it. But JJ makes a good point. He's bought all his fish from Macquarie, quarantines fish is worth a premium. I would never. I think I would have, if anybody came to me for fish business advice, which they never would. But if they did, I'd say no, don't sell quarantine fish. But if you come to me for fish buying advice, do buy them, absolutely. If Marine Collectors, which is in the States, was over here, they'd be popular. It wouldn't be for everybody, but I'd buy from them.
I think they will ship to anyone in the whole of America. I'm not in the market for like shipping fish. It just seems messy to me. And also the other thing is, fish will take a lot of there'll be a lot involved. And if I use my attention to grow coral rather than quarantine these fish, the chances are I will make more money focusing on the coral than I will on the fish. Because that was the other thing that Brian said, which was really interesting. When they were breeding clownfish and then they're breeding cardinal fish and when they're breeding other things, this was a long time ago. If you're breeding just one, you have like good success. If you're breeding two different fish, you get a drop in the success of the first fish you were breeding. And you think, well, why would that happen? It's because you're focusing your attention on two different things. And then you have three fish you're breeding. It's the same. So if I'm doing quarantine and corals and stuff like that, it's like you can't. I think people buy from me because I'm like a specialist.
Yeah, totally.
Like I'm a specialist in coral, and I think if all of a sudden I was doing a few other
doing 1,000 things,
people. That's why I always thought that like there are other things I have in the pipeline at the moment, but I wouldn't be doing it off the coral website. I would have an entirely new website if I was selling something else, because a good example is Charterhouse sell coral. But if I say to you Charterhouse, what do you think? You don't think coral
dry goods, no.
You think dry goods, yeah. So there's great advertising for them. You can all go check out their corals at the moment. but that's what I mean. So if I was doing the same thing, if you see what I mean, it just wouldn't work on the website. I would want to have two different websites. So yeah, it was just and that's all. Yeah, I know I've gone off on a tangent, but that's the same with the fish.
Yeah.
Like I can't. I'll become not a specialist if I try and do that.
Successful Reef Aquariums, which is Sean Russell, formerly of the Ocean Project on Reef Dream, says copper power 1.6 part per million is long-term safe, which is interesting. He says be careful running copper power at 2.5 parts per million whilst dosing Prazi. Keep it at 1.
So I dosed Prazi before I did the copper, and the therapeutic level of copper is, I think, is 1.5, 1.6. So that's what successful reef aquariums is saying. So that's like the low end,
Oh, interesting.
and then
Yeah,
the
okay.
high end is 2.5.
Right. Because I need to. There'll come a time. It's about a month's time actually when I need to actually start doing this in my quarantine tank. So
Yeah.
I need to ramp up the research in the next couple of weeks. But I forget stuff. So if I research it now,
It'll be gone.
yeah. But I need to start looking into it properly and figure out a plan because I want to get fish back in my tank at the moment.
It's
Latin.
I think we've said this before. Quarantining is well worth it. Like for some people,
Yeah, for the right person,
yeah. So, have you got? Oh, we've done my week in reefing, and we haven't done your week in reefing. Has it been exciting or uneventful?
Well, it's always eventful, but so a few things. Firstly, you might notice that the light behind me is different. So
I can assure you, I didn't
wouldn't have
notice.
noticed.
No.
So that's a hyper reef, a Naiku hyper reef. So I've put that on that tank.
Yes.
For
I wonder
week,
which tank you're going to put it on.
Yeah, I wanted to have it because they said I could get whichever one I wanted. My first thought was we'll get the biggest one and put it on the main tank, but I just thought that's going to look crap. So if we're going to make a video of it, let's do it properly and swap it over so it's just that tank. So that's only going to be up for a week. Though. I'm going to take it down afterwards. It's like first impressions that I've only set up today. It's really good, but my lighting setup is 1,000 times better, which it should be. Because it cost £1,000.
Yeah. How much did that one cost? Like what the cost of those lights?
$200. And I worked out the US price. It was about $950 of my setup. So it should be better, and it's to my taste as well. But it's decent to be fair. But yeah, so quarantine.
How was your hawkfish? Because you mentioned your hawkfish last week.
Deceased.
Not good.
Yeah, he died pretty quickly after last week's live stream. So he'd been doing this heavy breathing and not eating.
Yeah.
And I went down one morning and I saw him. He wasn't heavy breathing. He was just sat on the bottom and he'd stopped heavy breathing. I was like, oh, thank God, he's on his way back. When the lights come on, I'll feed him and see what happens. The lights came on and I was like,
that's why he stopped heavy breathing.
Yeah. So it wasn't moving. It had kind of glazed over eyes and just. So I pulled him out. Unfortunately, he died. I looked up. Someone suggested maybe it was just his time or something like that. How long do they live? They said last week on the chat, and I went and looked up lifespan. I've had him 6.5 years.
Yeah,
and that was the higher end of lifespan. Let me just Google it again.
I know, but like we do these things sometimes where we try to make ourselves. This is not going to sound very nice.
No, I'm trying to make myself feel better.
Yeah, we do these things where we try and make ourselves feel better. But the reality is it likely that it was the end of his life, or is it likely that the copper treatment and the disease and the things? Yeah,
I think he was ultimately because he was an old man, and it's so this is just the internet. So who knows? There's seahorseaquariums.com, which is the best place to go to for hawkfish knowledge. Says in captivity, the flame hawkfish can live up to 5 years or more. And then there's a thing on Reef to Reef. It's just a thread, so who knows who's saying it? I can't even see. It says a full-grown flame hawk would live at least 3 to 4 years, less than fully grown. Some individuals can be kept between 5 and 7 years, and mine was. And then lifespan, nothing here in the wild up to 10 years, 5 years or more in captivity. So he was I think he was a bit of an old man, and he didn't appreciate the copper treatment. Is my best guess. But at the end of the day, it's really sad because I'd had him 6.5 years. I went back and looked at my spreadsheet. I was like, when did I get him? But my other hawk is still good, which is the good news.
You wonder actually how long do some of these fish live? I know some of them can live a really long time, but so obviously I lost my purple tang after 17 years. The chances are she probably was within a year because most fish that are caught are within a year, 6 months to a year, I think is when they're first caught. So let's say she was 18. Is that a long lifespan for a purple tang, or is that a short lifespan for a purple tang? I don't know.
Well, clowns live like 30 years. Tangs live quite a long time because you see them around for a long time, don't you? But yeah.
But that's what I mean. How do we know how old the hawkfish was?
Well, Reef Keeper, who's an experienced guy, said he's had I have a flame hawk that's been in for 8 years. So, it's not like mine was the oldest hawkfish in the world.
Yeah.
But I kind of get the impression it was old enough, but anyway, whatever. There's not much I can do about it now. Everyone else is fine, which is good news. I went down. I've got a little basket of sand, which is where the Wrasse sleeps, and I went down there this morning. And he's every time he goes in there, he pushes a load of the sand out, and he was just lying with like 3 grains of sand buried on top of him, so pretending he's in the sand. So whilst he was sleeping, I poured a load more sand on him, and he must have woken up like, "Huh, what's going on?"
Does that does the sand not do anything to do with the medication?
No, it doesn't absorb.
It has no effect.
No, live rock does.
Yeah, I assumed it was the same.
But he's all right, which is great. But so that was the Hawkfish, unfortunately. One thing I did with the so I've been playing around with the Cade a little bit, and I the other day I did a water change, and I was like, I want to get all the crud off the rocks and all that sort of stuff. Some people like do it with a turkey base to other people. Various ways of doing it. I was like, I can't be bothered with that. So I just turned the Powerheads up to 100% for 10 minutes before, and they're normally sitting at about 30%, I think. So about 10 minutes before I did the water change. Oh, no. It was when I changed. It's when I installed the filter roller. Sorry. I'd had no filter roller for ages. I was like, there's a load of stuff in there. I want to get it out. And as soon as I put it on 100%, like all this crap just lifted off the rocks in the sand bed.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. I'm not, my flow isn't too low because it's at the right kind of level for the corals in that tank. But I was like, I need to do that more regularly. So I've now set it so for 15 minutes, half an hour, I think it's 15 minutes every day, both Powerheads go on 100%. And actually, they 100% in that tank isn't that crazy with those Powerheads. They're not. It's not like a tumble or like a washing machine. But every day for a quarter of an hour, all the stuff will get lifted up and go down into the sump and get filtered out, which is good. And I think I might do the same thing on my main tank.
Does it not like move the sand around?
No, because I've got kind of gravel.
Oh so, yeah, you have like chunky sand, don't you?
I do, yeah. I don't like fine sand.
No, that's somewhere where we differ.
You like fine? Yeah, I love fine sand. Looks fantastic. I just as soon as you turn the flow up, it goes all over the place. I hate it.
My angelfish every day it drives me crazy because it digs a hole under. There's an archway that it likes to sleep under, and I can fill the hole in, and then the next day it's been dug out again. I can fill the hole in, so I'm actually going to put a rock under there, basically to stop him.
But why? If that's what he wants to do.
That's fine that's what he wants to do, but aesthetically, it doesn't please me because I can see the glass. It literally digs down all the way to the glass level.
What's more important, the fish being happy or you seeing a bit of glass?
Me being happy. There are plenty of places for him to sleep, and he's picked the one place which wasn't big enough for him, and he decided to make it big enough for him.
Okay, fair enough.
So.
What else is I going to do?
Gravel in there to teach him a lesson.
Yeah. Like he wouldn't like my tank. And the other thing, you know that is it the red brick Cyphastra I've got from you?
Yes, yeah.
That goes in. So
what colour is it now?
Your tank is red. My tank is like mostly green. It's now gone back to mostly red. My phosphate's gone up. There might be some other stuff that's changed, but my phosphate's gone up quite significantly since I got rid of the Clarity because I went basically a month, 2 months without a filter. Yeah. And I'm still doing water changes, but it's 0.7, which is actually down. It was higher than that. But yeah, so it doesn't like phosphate and it's gone red again. But I'm hoping when I get my my phosphate back down over the next few weeks, it'll be better.
You should take a picture of some of your corals now, and then if you're actively trying to lower your phosphate, and then take a picture of them again in a few weeks' time to see how much of a difference you will notice a difference.
Totally.
So,
maybe
not on. Are you talking about that tank, or are you talking about the tank downstairs?
This tank, yeah.
Okay, maybe not so much because they're mostly like soft corals and LPS, aren't they?
LPS, almost all LPS, yeah. But then it's the same in the K tank, in the water.
That's true actually.
Red Sea, they're both LPS. So, but in the Red Sea tank, my phosphate is 0.1, which is more or less perfect. Maybe a little bit low, but I mean, probably not. But in the Cade, it's just too high, so I just need to water change it out. And hopefully now I've got that filter in, that'll help. But we'll see. I think that is everything I had to talk about. So we can move on, which means we can move on to, is it member questions next? It is.
Usually member questions.
Member questions. And there are 2 member questions. Let me just refresh. 2 member questions today. This was a really good one from Bish Bash Ash. Which coral are you most proud of growing in your tank?
You go first because I need to have a think about this.
To think about it. So in the chat, I also want you to tell us, want you guys to answer this question in the comments section afterwards as well. What coral are you most proud of growing? So it's a tough one because proud of growing, first off, it's got to be something difficult.
Yeah,
Because if it's just like a GSP, maybe it's a GSP. To be fair, I really like the GSP in that tank. And I don't really know. I mean, so I've got some gunnies that are really nice, and they can be fiddly sometimes. But probably my strawberry shortcake from my last tank, which was from a 1-inch frag, it ended up being this massive colony, and it looks stunning. So
keep talking. I'm googling the name of mine, so keep talking.
There would have been one that if I'd have got it to survive, absolutely 100% would have been top, and that's the Icefire Echinata.
I'm about to butcher the name of this, and I'm not. Am I proud that I grew this? I'm amazed that I've grown this apparently because these are meant to be quite difficult to grow. Is it a Latistella?
Latistella, yeah.
Are they difficult to grow?
I don't. So I had one that stripped after about 5 years for no reason.
No. Oh, 5. Well, 5 years is a long time. So,
No, I don't know. No.
So
I'm not a proper stickhead.
I got one about 4 years ago, and I sort of went and then put it into one of the tanks and forgot about it, and then it grew to like this. It grew massive, and then someone went, "You know what that is, don't you?" And I'm like, "Nope." And they're like, "That's really hard to keep." And I'm like, "Is it? It's not hard to keep in my tank."
Yeah.
So that. But when I actually thought about this, it's very hard for me to like. They all blur into one. So I actually don't know. Is the honest answer. If someone said me what fish, I could probably do it if I thought about it. Well, I've got a powder blue tang that's like in pristine condition. I've had for probably 8 years now or something.
Okay. Do you get white spot?
No, not really.
Okay.
Like I couldn't even tell you the last time I had white spot.
Okay.
It very occasionally it will get like 1 or 2 dots on it, and that's it. But last time that would have happened probably was like 2 years ago. I reckon. I can't even remember the last time it happened.
Yeah. Okay.
But that one is, and it's, well, you've seen it, haven't you? You see it loads of times.
Yes.
Are you telling me you can't remember the massive powder blue tank I have in the tank?
I don't look at the fish in your tank, but yeah, I've seen it. I couldn't tell you how big it is or what.
That's the fish that when people see it, they go, "That's an impressive fish."
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
There you go.
So.
There's a question I don't understand. Do you have a reef tank motorcycle? Do you have a reef tank? I have a motorcycle and a reef tank. If that's what you mean. But yeah, so that's a good question. And there'll be a few people in the chat. Acropora gamese from a small frag to a 1.5 foot colony.
I liked when I first got bounce mushrooms because they were really expensive, and you get a razor blade and you just cut them in half, and you're like, please don't die, please don't die. When I first got some of them, they were like 250, 800 pounds for some of these, like the OGs and the sun-kissed ones. They've come down quite considerably since then, but when you're cutting something that's 250 pounds in half that's just arrived, you're like, oh, please survive. Yeah. But originally, when they weren't around that, when there weren't that many around, that like basically funded the building the coral farm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's good.
So,
and the second question, I don't quite follow this, so I'm not going to answer your question, but I'm going to answer it in a different way that I think is better anyway. This is from PJ Dub, who says, if you had very hard tap water, 383 milligrams per litre of CaCO3, which is calcium carbonate, is that right? Wow. Would you consider using rainwater and pre-filtering it before processing through an RODI filter, or would you just soften the tap water before RODI? Availability of rainwater and space to store is not an issue. I would never use rainwater because, for a start, I've never heard of any. You never hear of people using it with anything in reefing. If you think of something that sounds niche, go and try to find people who do it. If no one does it, there's probably a good reason.
Yeah.
And if it's coming off your roof or wherever it's coming off, it's probably picking up stuff. Who knows what it's picking up? I don't want that. Can I filter it out with an RODI? Maybe, can I get enough pressure going through the RDI filter without the mains pressure with just a booster pump? Maybe, but it'll be lower than it would be from your tap. And pressure is good. You want more pressure going through your RDI filter. If I had what's your TDS basically? 383 milligrams per litre of CaCO3.
Someone's just entered the ring. Pelagic Swimmer says Than does it.
What fresh rainwater? I
don't know.
I mean, he's got, but look at his setup. Is he a normal hobbyist?
No.
This is, and so I'm not saying he's doing it wrong, of course, but like if you shouldn't be, if you look at, so like if you're going to look at that, you like, okay, well, Chris Meckley uses, all these weird hydroxides that are really spicy. Oh, well, he does it. Should I use them? No. Because he's got a different setup. He hasn't got a 4-foot tank with half a dozen. Crazy. But no, I don't. I wouldn't. Basically, I would only I don't know what your TDS is. That's what you want to know, really. What's your TDS? If it's really high, use more filters. But I would always just use RDI filters with the tap. From a tap water, and you can use. So the filter I use, I have 2 booster pumps. It's bloody massive. I have 2 pre-filters. The sponge. They're not sponges, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then 2. Do I have 2 carbon blocks or just 1 carbon block? Can't remember. I think 1 carbon block. I've got 2 membranes as well, and then I've got 2 DI resin chambers. Doubling up everything is a good way to go.
The thing that would concern me the most is if there was an issue with your tank, you wouldn't know that wasn't what was causing it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you what you want to try and do, try to eliminate anything that could potentially cause you problems. And if other people aren't usually doing it, or as you said, I don't know anyone doing it, then it's probably best that you don't. I know people that have success with using seawater. I had success with using seawater until I didn't. And then, and then I didn't. What's interesting is this was a long time ago. I was using seawater, and everything was fine. And I was published on forums. I was using seawater. You never hear me publish why I don't use seawater anymore.
Tell us.
Well, I found a cigarette in it for a start.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Were you getting this from Bognor Regis?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Okay.
Go down near Brighton, you find worse things in there. So, but yeah, it's like there were definitely issues with my tank, and I just think to myself, was some of that coming from the fact that I was using seawater? Possibly. I mean, it might not be, but possibly.
So so CaCO3 is calcium carbonate. So the answer to the question is if you've got a specific issue that you think is attributable to that, and this is not this is just your first tank, then just use a normal RDI filter. But if you've got specific issues and you're specifically concerned about this, try to find someone who's had that position. BRS have done loads of videos back in the day when Ryan was knocking around. They've done loads of videos on the specifics of what filter does what for what contaminant. So you'll be able to find something, whether you need to double up your carbon blocks or use anion or cation DI resin or whatever. There'll be something in there. But I would just use if you can double up all your filters, so 2 membranes, 2 carbon blocks, 2 pre-filters, 2 DI resins, that's wicked.
Safer than rainwater.
Yeah, I just don't. The thing is, rainwater might be fine. And it might just be that I've never used it and I don't know. But just why use it? No one does use it, so why do it? Anyway, that is the end of the member questions, which means we're on to the Prestige Reef Fish of the Week.
Oh no. No, wait, no, we can't be on. No, we must. There must be loads of things that we need to talk about before this. I thought we're doing. Yeah, I was going to say, you got to give me some time to think of a fish of the week.
Let's do the headline topic then, which is the top 5 most peaceful tangs ish. So Ryan, what you've drawn up a list. What have you got?
Well, the most obvious one, I think that you will have this on your list. I'm assuming you did create a list, or did you just send this to me?
No,
you did not create a list.
No, I've only ever owned like 5 tanks.
I thought you did a list for yourself, and then we're going to compare. And now I realize you just gave me homework and didn't do it for yourself.
Correct. I tell you, no, actually, I have got a list. Let's see if it's the same as yours.
Oh yeah,
I have a feeling it might be.
Top of the list would be the Nasso Tang. It could be the blonde Nasso Tang or a normal normal Nasso Tang. They just have a much nicer demeanor. Now, before I say this, it's really really important because some people will be listening, going, "I got a Nasso Tang, and it's an absolute bastard." Yeah, so it's where I've got this information from is I've had a whole collection of Tangs over the years in different tanks, different sizes. There are some which are absolutely terrible. Clown Tangs, for example, are, in my opinion, Clown Tangs would be the very, very worst of all Tangs. You can get one that's 2 inches and they'll chase a 6-inch fish. So that's where this information is coming from. I'm not saying every Tang is the same. You might have a Clown Tang which is as good as gold. But in my opinion, and I've had 4 of them over the years because I actually really like them, I will never have a Clown Tang again. Nasso Tangs, however, would be the most peaceful. I have, in several tanks, put them at the top of the hierarchy. So Tangs have a hierarchy. It's usually based on how big they are. And if you have, well, this is just anecdotal. If you have the biggest Tang as the most peaceful one, it usually keeps all the other ones in line. And what was interesting was I had this happen where I had a very, very small Desjardins sailfin, which was at the very bottom of the pecking order. It was literally it was probably a couple of inches when I first got it. And as it grew over the years, it eventually grew to be the largest fish in the tank and also outgrew the Nasso Tang. And then it was chaos. Yeah. It was like a free for all. And it's funny because I always remember this fish. On the day one, it got bullied, and I didn't put them in acclimation boxes then, and it had torn fins and everything. And it remembered. It absolutely remembered. And as it got bigger and bigger and bigger throughout the hierarchy, and it would then pick on the other fish.
It was working out every day, like pumping iron, building up.
I promise you, it never forgot, and I had to get rid of it in the end because that was the worst one.
So that's a Zebrasoma, right? And generally, Zebrasomas are more aggressive. Would you say?
Which one? Yes, it is. Yeah, that's correct. I don't have any Zebrasomas on my list. Let's put it that way. Okay. Acanthurus Tangs are usually the worst, I would say, when it comes to Tangs. So those are things like Achilles, Soulhole Tangs, Clown Tangs, Powder Blues. There is one exception to that, and that is on my list. That's a convict Tang.
Oh, really? So what? So I just said Dory. So the Hippo Tang is Paracanthurus.
Something like that. Yeah.
So that is what are they like? I've never had one. I might be biased. I really, really hate Regal Tangs. I really hate them. Okay. I don't like them because they get white spot. I don't like them because they will often eat corals. They will often bite corals. And anyway, so look, I've just said convict Tangs are one of the most peaceful ones, and someone just said that their convict Tangs are really violent. So convict Tang. Hang on, I was thinking of something else. Convict Tang. That's the little. No, that is the one I was thinking of. So what was his face? Josh at Worldwide Corals had one of these because they're Acanthurus, right? Acanthurus. Yes. Yeah, here we go. This was one that he said is they can be aggressive. He finds them aggressive.
They actually don't have a blade on their tail. So if they're being they have like a pseudo blade, which is like a really I might have made that up. I promise you, they don't have a blade like other Tangs have a blade. It's like really, really insignificantly small.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. Okay.
It's almost it's like barely there. Whereas if you look at the blade,
an innie.
Yeah, basically. Whereas if you look at the blade on a Nasso Tang, they have 4. They have 2 on each side of them.
Okay.
But so I put a convict on my list because it's more peaceful, I found, than other Acanthurus Tangs. Are you looking at the blade on? Yeah, you see.
I am. Yeah, I can see 2 on either side. Yeah. Okay.
They actually have pretty cool blades, those Nasso Tangs.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that looks nasty. You can see the shadow underneath it. They're so big.
Yeah, they're like serious. They got serious weapons.
Yeah,
and that's probably why nothing messes with them.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're going to turn up with one sword against the guy that's got 2,
yeah. That's not a knife. That's a knife.
Yeah. So in my experience, convict Tangs have always been lower down on the pecking order. I've actually got 2. One's in quarantine at the moment, which is bullied by a Tang, which is not bullied, but it's bullied by a Tang that's about an inch or half an inch smaller than it, which is a powder blue. So
Yeah, okay.
powder blue is the boss, even though the convict is bigger.
Powder blues are generally quite aggressive, though, right?
Yes, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Even Pelagic Swimmer saying that his convict is not peaceful. Like, this is what I mean. It's like it's
One of the
difficult.
worst. Yeah.
It's difficult because everyone has different like opinions, and it is actually based on what else is in the tank with them, and also the size of them as well. So if I've seen his tank, and obviously his convict won't be the largest fish in there, but if my as I said, in the quarantine at the moment, I have a larger convict than a powder blue, and the powder blue is bullying it. So let's put it this way: it may not be the most peaceful tank, but it's definitely more peaceful than the powder blue.
Okay.
Is what I'll say.
Yeah.
Unicorn tangs are from the same family, I believe, as Naso tangs. Again, they're peaceful. I found.
And Acanthuridae.
Is that correct?
Oh no, Naso unicornis.
Yeah. So they are the.
Yeah. Naso,
I think there's a few members of that family, and they're all known for being relatively peaceful.
These get massive, don't they? They're like 6 feet long.
That's probably why they're
literally
peaceful.
a foot long.
When they come in, they're always bigger than all the other fish, so they don't need to be aggressive.
Nothing to prove, like a big dog against a little yappy one.
Yeah, I've seen them be aggressive to each other. I've seen two Naso tangs seriously not like each other.
Oh, really?
But again, even though people have hurt my feelings because they disagree with me, even though people are saying that they have more aggressive convicts, I've never had a convict as at the top of the pecking order. I've had a powder blue at the top of a pecking order. I've had a Soho Tang at the top of I've never had a convict there. So
Okay.
this is what I mean.
Yeah.
And again, the same goes with a Tamini Tang. I know some people have real trouble with Tamini Tangs, but the one I have is like a little girl. It's like it literally it's frightened of all the other fish and doesn't come out. It spends basically all its time under the coral tray. Not because
they must generally they do get semi big when they grow up, but they must be the smallest in Tang in most situations.
One of the smaller tangs. Yeah.
Have you ever seen a full size one?
It depends what's classified as full size.
Well, yes, a very good point. But they're big. Like a full size tummy tang is not tiny because normally they're like an inch or two long.
Yeah.
I've seen them a good 6 inches long.
Yeah, but if you think a good 6 inches is not big compared to an Naso tang.
No. But just I just see them and I think yeah. I just see them and I think they're going to be small. So hang on. So what have we got so far? We've got Naso number 1.
Naso,
the most peaceful.
Yeah, and then I would say the unicorn tang would be up there as the most peaceful ones.
Okay.
Then I've got, as I said, I've got a convict, but overruled by chat, and a Tamini tang. Again, coal tangs. Some people find. In fact, you had a white-tailed coal tang, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
And was your white-tailed coal tang peaceful or not peaceful?
90%, 99% of the time, he was completely peaceful. Actually, didn't bother anybody. Didn't bother my copper band, which was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
But I had what was it? I think it was a flasher wrasse of some kind, a fairy wrasse of some kind. I think it was a McCuskers. It might have been my Naoko. It might have been both. I can't remember. But for whatever reason, it took a serious disliking to that wrasse. No, obviously, wrasse don't eat algae. There's no reason for it. He just didn't like him, and it was nasty bullying, really nasty. And the wrasse died before I could catch him. So.
Now, your experience with a white-tailed coal tang is it bullied a fish so relentlessly it killed it. Does that make them more or less aggressive than other tangs, or is that specific to that situation?
So from what I understand, white-tailed coal tangs can be quite nasty. When I was doing my research, lots of people said, they're bullies, but it was a bit of a split. So I don't know. Sometimes a switch flicks.
Yeah,
and they just go blood. So it was my impression.
See, Dave has just said that gem tangs are very peaceful. I know that gem tangs are one of those zebrazomas that you cannot. I don't know anyone who has two gem tangs. I know someone who tried to keep 3 gem tangs and they killed each other. I'm not surprised. So you can mix purple tang. I've seen people mix purple tangs, although they can be pretty ruthless purple tangs.
Big tank, I guess.
I've seen lots of people mix yellow tangs.
Yeah, okay.
But gem tangs can be like absolutely ruthless towards each other. So does that make
Yeah.
them more or less peaceful than other Tangs?
You've always warned me about gem tangs because obviously I had one.
Yeah. Yeah, so look, Pelagic Swimmer, he had 2 gem tanks, big failure.
Big
I'm
failure.
assuming that means one of
Dude.
I'm assuming that means one of
Yeah.
them killed the other one.
He's got 17 tangs in his. I got 17 tangs in my tank. Convict causes most problems. Sohal rules them all. Achilles is pretty gentle, which is unusual.
I'm surprised because Achilles are known for being ruthless, and I get my Sohol's pretty peaceful as well. It smaller ones with smaller fish can be like not nice to each other, but obviously the one I've got is huge, and it's with relatively small other tangs, so it's almost like they're too small to bother it. As the other tangs are getting bigger, he's starting to notice them more than before I've noticed, and I did take one out, didn't I? I took the vampire tang out. That's
Okay.
another tang which I've think is relatively peaceful. Vampire tangs, which is they come from an aggressive family, but they seem to be one of the more exceptions.
Vampire Tang was on my list as well, actually, funnily enough. Vampire
I feel
Tang.
like I'm in court at the moment. I feel like I'm in court because I say something and someone goes, "Nope, that's not right."
By the chat. Vampire Tangs. They've got the little bite marks on their throat.
I really like vampire tangs. Like I really like vampire tangs.
Really boring.
But I don't know what. No, I disagree. I know you might go, "Oh, they're not as nice as like a clown tang or an Achilles or whatever," but there's just something about them I really like.
I'd probably rather eat that than keep it. James says, and you've said this before, his purple Tang's an evil bastard. He goes after his own reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Tangs do that. So when my purple Tang went for my copper band, I actually it wouldn't stop going for it. I tried everything, and so I had to catch the purple Tang and move him on. Otherwise, the copper band would have died.
Yeah.
But I put the mirror up to try to trick him. Put the mirror up at the end of the tank, and he was constantly attacking it. But it got to the point after a week, I was thinking he might stop, and then after about a week, he was still doing it. I took the mirror away. And then he went straight back to the copper band because he was like, "Oh right, that's number one problem gone. Now I've got number two problem."
Yeah.
So and it got to the point that I thought, well, even if I were to, let's say I do this again and I put the mirror up for another week and this time it fixes it, which seems unlikely, that is stressing the Tang out.
Yeah.
So it's not good for him. So it might be doing the copper band a favor, but he was nasty. So.
Norfolk Reefers just said mimic tangs. That's a good shout. Mimic tangs are
they the lemon peel looking?
They come. You can get a lemon peel, a Ilibi angel.
Ably. Oh yeah, I love those.
And you can also get a half black.
Look at that yellow mimic tang. That's very nice.
They don't stay looking like that though. They turn brown.
They go brown, don't they?
I've actually got 2 of them. I haven't got the Ebli. I never know how to pronounce it.
Ebli, L-E-B.
I've got one of those, and I've got the lemon one as well, but I don't have that.
That is cool. But that probably goes. Well, that's already looking a bit drab compared to an Ebli or L-E-B, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
I think what would have been a better idea is to pick the most peaceful tangs of each of the families that they're in. That might have actually been easier, because how can you for example, with Zebrasoma tangs, the specific sailfin tang I find to be the least trouble of all the other ones.
Pacific.
I like how you have to Google these.
That's the Veliferum.
Veliferum, yes, correct, yes.
Yeah.
It would be either that or it would be Scopas tang. I'd say would probably be the most.
But Scopas are boring.
It's a shame. Yeah, I know.
The Veliferum looks pretty similar to the Desjardins, but the Desjardins, whatever, I think is a nicer looking tang. So it's a bit of a shame.
There is a massive difference between the aggression of each of them.
Yeah.
There is like an it's like worlds apart.
Is that the same? No, that's a Desjardins.
That's not a Veliferum.
This is here we go. Yeah. Okay. So all right. Well, hang on. Let's finish off the top 5, and then we'll do each unit. So far I've got Naso, Unicorn, Convict, potentially overruled, Vampire. Was Tomini in there as well?
I did put Tomini in there.
Okay. So right. So your top 5 is
technically my top 5 didn't have the Vampire Tang in. I was going to have the Pacific Sailfin.
Pacific.
in there.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
So a Voliferum, Pacific Sailfin Tang,
Yeah.
a Tamini Tang, a Convict Tang, potentially not, a Unicorn Tang, and a Naso Tang. They are your top 5 least aggressive tangs.
That was, yes, that's what I would say. Although overall,
Yeah.
how can convicts be the most aggressive? They don't even have the blade.
Yeah. But
Maybe that's why they're so aggressive. They're all show.
Yeah. They're acanthurus, though, aren't they? So
Yeah, they are.
What else was I say? Okay, so of each family, you said. So Zebrasema we've done.
So I would say the Pacific Sailfin would be the least, and I would say the most would be the purple, or
Really?
yeah, I would say a purple is probably the most aggressive. Possibly a gem, but more likely a purple. If
it's a shame the purple's so nice.
A lot of people have trouble with a yellow tang as well. See, even I'm a bit nervous because I have the tangs are in quarantine, and then in the water box I've just got one yellow tang by itself. So I'm like, are you going to cause me trouble? Because I know that it was fine in the water box. No, the water box in the coral farm was completely fine. It wasn't the top of the list. It was like low down in the hierarchy of tangs there. Whereas now it's the number 1 fish. It's like the highest level of tang because it's the only tang. So I think he's going to have a problem. And I think what I will probably do is I'll probably catch him in a trap. Rather than put the others in a trap, I'll put the new ones in the tank directly in, because there's 6 of them. And I will catch him so he can look at them for a day. And then I'll release him afterwards once the other fish have been able to look around.
Next genus, Tenocatus, which is the coal tangs.
Look, when I said we should have done this, I should have done my research. I wasn't sure you were going to put me on the spot.
I'm putting you on the spot. Yeah.
You are putting me on the spot. And
it's not like this. It's not like it's black and white. It's like this is a bit like.
But these are the fish I have the least experience with. I haven't had baby Bristletooth tangs.
Oh really?
I have an orange spot tang, which neither is orange nor has spots. Oh no, sorry, orange line tang is what I have. And that is mean. That actually came from.
Oh, right.
It doesn't. It's neither orange nor has lines, but it's an orange line tang.
Purple.
So, but that one. Look at the brown picture of it, 2 along. That's what they actually look like. Now, quite big. The reason I have this fish was because one of my customers came to me, and he's a fisherman. So killing fish is nothing to him, because he regularly will go and catch fish and he'll kill them, and that's fine. It was so aggressive in his tank that he was going to kill it, and I said, just bring it to the farm. Like I'll find somewhere for it to go, and I put it in. Super peaceful, never had a problem until I moved it to a different tank. Then it had a problem.
How funny.
So it really depends on what else they're with. Like
okay.
So if you have a problem tang, it's probably because it's been added in the wrong order.
Yeah, so we'll come on to that in a sec. What was I going to look at here though? So Reefkeeper says his Desjardins randomly eats zoas.
Yeah.
He'll munch on them and then leave them alone for months. That's weird.
My one of all the tangs I've had to move around, those are the worst. And I had a real tang which I never allowed to try. I never kept it with any LPS. That was only in my SPS tank. But the Desjardins, those are the ones I have to move around the most because they start eating something. Whether it would be trackies or it could be candy canes. People don't realize that some of the tangs will chomp on LPS corals, even though they're supposedly reef safe.
Pacific sailfin, the Voliferum, are they better?
I've never had an issue with one. Never had an issue with one eating coral.
Because basically, I've drawn up a list actually since we've been talking of tangs that I want now.
Oh, I see. All of a sudden, I've now realised what you're doing. This is your consultation, isn't it?
It's my free consultation. Yeah, exactly. And the tangs on my list are Voliferum, South Indian Pacific Ocean Sailfin tang, a Naso, and a Tamini.
Yeah, I'd say they'd be fine together.
Because then I've got the mix of a Bristletooth for the constant grazing, and I've got a couple of other that will go for bigger leafy algae.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's
not bad. There's plenty of other better tanks than that, I think.
Yeah, but I don't know. Well, I don't really like tangs. I probably won't get any of these, to be fair. But what are the genuses? I won't put you on the spot. What are the genuses do you want to talk about? Acanthurus. There must be.
Oh, the
must have
Acanthurus are
opinions on them.
usually, as I said, the clown tangs are the worst, and I would have put the convicts or the vampire tangs as the at the least.
Yeah, clown tang. So there's another tang that looks a little bit like a clown tang. Is it Sohal? And I
Yes.
always get them confused. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so clown tangs are like Soho tangs that are on drugs, because Soho tangs are basically black and white, and clown tangs are like the really they're like, in my opinion, they are one of the nicest tangs, like coloration wise.
Clown or Sohal?
The clown tangs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Totally.
Soho tangs are like clown tangs that are in suits. Like they go to work.
Posh one. Yeah. Okay.
Pelagic swimmer, do you have a clown tang? I know you. I know you. I've seen your tang. I know you got lots of tangs, but I don't know if you have a clown tang. And if you don't, tell us why not. Because if you've got 17 tangs, there's a reason you left that one out.
Yeah. Oh, he's Reef Keeper says my buddy has a Berine.
I had one of
Berine
those.
tank?
I had one of those.
Would
I sold it. They get really big.
I've never heard of that. Berine.
You're not going to like it. I bet you don't like it, but they have subtly nice colors.
I don't hate it. Let me bring it up. No, actually, I do hate it.
As I said, under the right lighting, under blue lighting, they look terrible. Under more white lighting, they're actually pretty nice.
It looks a bit like a poo, if I'm honest. Okay.
Oh, God, that's not. That...
I need to see a doctor if mine looks like that, don't I?
Yes.
We'll move on.
Yeah, but so yeah, I would say.
Pelagic Swimmer says they're stunning, just mental, and not with a Soho.
Yeah. See, it's just, I've only ever seen one clown tank, and I would assume it successfully because it was in Singapore Aquarium. It's meant to be one of the best aquariums in the world. They had a clown tang in one of their massive tanks, and I've got a video of it being cleaned by two cleaner wrasse. So the videos of it swimming and the cleaner wrasse are swimming around it.
That's cool.
And so that's the only one I can think of where it was done successfully, that I've seen. But I'm sure. What's weird? No one in the chat has come forward and gone, "Actually, I've got a really peaceful clown tang," which is what usually happens when you say something like this.
MS Reef wants to know, and I've set the Tang police on him already. He wants to know what Tang would be suitable for a Red Sea Nano XL, which is basically the same size as my Cade over my shoulder, more or less.
It depends.
I mean, short term.
Yeah. So realistically, no tangs for long term, but you can get some really tiny sailfin tangs, like tiny. Now sailfin tangs get massive, so this is not a long term thing.
You're talking 12 months, 6 months, maybe.
Yeah, but you can get some people. Again, to me, tangs come in. Some tangs come in much smaller than others, and to me, tangs and sailfins usually come in quite small.
So in my water box, which was a 2 foot by 2 foot tank, I had a Tamini tang in there for a while.
Yeah,
I can't remember what happened to him in the end, and he was always fine. He was never aggressive to anyone. He didn't look like he was. Did he?
Yeah, he came to me and then he went back to you.
Yes, you're right. Yes, you're right.
No, he didn't come to me. I had your whitetail coal tang.
I don't know. Anyway, we'll move on. I can't remember what happened. He must have passed away. I don't. Yeah, I think he might. Anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah. But my plan was always to move him on. But to be fair, I'd had him at least a year, and he didn't really get much bigger. He was always okay. So I'm not recommending anybody put one in a nano tank. But I wouldn't, and I wouldn't put, actually weirdly. So my water box, even though that was 2 foot by 2 foot, and the Cade is 22 inches by 22 inches roughly, I wouldn't put one in the Cade.
Yeah,
I can't tell you. I can't explain why, but it just that's small. There was a lot actually.
It was wrong.
It does. There was a lot more rock in the water box as well, so more places for him to hide and all that. But yeah, but I mean, I would put I've got my sump extension section in my Red Sea Reef S850. That is at some point going to be used as a frag tank. I've got this weird film on it at the moment. Don't know why. It's nowhere else. It's not in the main sump. It's not in the tank. It's just in that little bit. Weird. Anyway, and I've tried putting a Powerhead in there. Anyway, when I have that set up as a frag tank, I'll put a Tamini in there, and he'll be cool. So
yeah.
My
My question is, why do you want to put a Tang in that tank? If you're putting a Tang in that size tank, probably an algae problem potentially. I mean, look, don't get me wrong, they're nice fish, so maybe that's why. But if you've got an algae problem, then urchins, snails, hermit crabs, depending on what other things you have in there, will all do the job.
That's what Tang should I put in a nano tank? Urchin.
Yeah.
Is the answer. They're really good with algae.
Yeah.
Although annoyingly, so I've got ulva in my my main tank, and because all my algae eating fish have gone, well, all my fish are gone. It's growing, and my urchins don't eat it. They bloody wear it. They wear it as costumes.
They spread it.
They're taking the piss. They're doing it to piss me off. I know now, but anyone else? Sorry, any other genuses, genii of Tang you want to talk about?
No, let's just go no. Just because if I had like some pictures in front of me, I'd go, yeah, that one, no, don't have that one. But it's not. It's more difficult.
I should have given you. I should have thought about this providing and given you time to think about it, because otherwise,
because otherwise it's just on the spot, and then you feel far more conscious of getting it right.
Yeah.
Someone's asked about orange shoulder tangs. They, I would say, would be leaning more on the angry side. Not the worst, but more on the angry side. They are an Acanthus Tang as well. That's actually one of the things I've never had. There's not many I've never had, but I've never had an orange shoulder.
Do they lose their orange shoulder when they get older?
No, I don't think so. I know they change.
No, they don't. I think it's the other way around. They don't have one when they're young, or
they start off as yellow with a really tiny bit, and then as they get older, they go sort of brown. But they sort of like a half brown and half something else, and then they have the orange shoulder.
Yeah, a bit boring.
Again, then see, nice fish is what I was going to say, and you went nope, boring.
But you and I have very different opinions on fish.
Yes, there's actually very few fish that we agree on.
Yeah, I know. And MS Reef says instead of the Tang in a nano tank, should he go for a dwarf angel? Probably not.
I know the corals that you have in your tank because MS Reef actually did a consultation with me a little while ago.
Oh, cool.
And also he actually put an order with me, I think last week. So I would not advise a dwarf angel.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because they were I think I seem to remember there's quite a lot of LPS corals. The only dwarf angels that you could potentially get would be a coral beauty or a flame angel. They are usually safer, but it's not worth the hassle.
Toss of a coin.
Yeah. And they're like impossible to get out as well.
I want a lemon peel, a multi-bar, and an ably.
Is that actually true?
I love them. They're stunning fish, but
like
I just like corals.
You're a slightly different level to where MS Reef is. And so although I wouldn't advise it to you either, you need something to keep you entertained.
There is no way in a million years I'd have those three fish, by the way.
Would you try one?
No. I've thought about them many times. I think
I'm just encouraging you to do it. So no. I would never advise anyone to do that. But because it's you, I'm like, yeah, just give it a go.
So I don't mind giving it a crack because I can always catch them and pull them out. But I had a multi-bar years ago. It was so long ago. It was the first time I ever quarantined. So we're talking the first year or two of the hobby.
Yeah.
And it died in quarantine. Perhaps unsurprisingly because they're finicky.
Yeah, they don't like
to keep.
They don't like quarantine. But they actually those ones, the multibars are finicky to keep, aren't they?
Yeah, I suppose.
Although they tank breed them now, I'm pretty sure.
This was not tank bred. I don't think it was. I don't think so.
Have you seen the multicolor angels?
Yeah,
they're called multicolor, but they're like the least multicolor of all the angels.
They're okay. I don't mind them, but
I saw one in person the other day, and I was like, actually, I like that more than I thought I would like that.
Yeah, they're cool, but again, it's going to eat corals, isn't it? So
yeah, well, my flame angel might eat coral, but so might the king eye. So
this is true.
We'll just see.
What? Chevron tangs. What about Chevron tangs, Ryan?
Chevron tangs. I would never advise anyone gets a Chevron tang purely because most people get a Chevron tang because they look well cool when they're juveniles. They don't stay juveniles very long. They're one of the fastest changing tangs. So if you get one because of that, they then turn black and you're like, well, black with like white stripes. And they are okay as adults. Like the pattern alone is nice.
Pretty boring.
But they're not like that, like cool orange pattern with purple.
They're quite expensive as well, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, and they're expensive because of their juvenile coloration. They're not expensive
Right.
because of their adult coloration because people don't
No.
want the adults.
No.
So see, that's a cool fish, isn't it?
Really cool. Yeah, yeah.
But 6 months later, it probably won't look like that.
You'll look like this black.
Yeah. So,
Oh, hang on, that's a different fish, I think. Oh no,
that's the same fish.
yeah, Chevron. Is it?
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
And they, as I said, they change. They're one of the fastest changing fish. What is it? Is it Atlantic blue tangs? Sometimes you can have them for years and years and years, and they don't change. I had a yellow one for years, which never turned blue. And whereas with those, they almost always change, and it's really quick.
Atlantic blue, they get quite big, right?
Yeah, those I would say are one of my favorite tangs.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Why?
I really, really like them. I think I saw an adult at London Aquarium, and just seeing, I was just like, "Wow, that's like a showpiece fish." And Jamie has one, and you see it in his tank, and you see it with all his other tangs, because it's like twice the size of all the other tangs. You go, "That's a showpiece fish." So, yeah.
Cool. I think that probably does it for Tang chat, unless there's anything else you particularly wanted to talk about.
No, but I'm going to make you do the fish and car of the weeks. Now that you've put me on. You asked me
Really?
put me on the spot.
I'm looking confused. Sorry.
I don't think I can take any more of it.
I'm looking confused because I heard a squealing noise. I was like, what the hell is that? I thought it was a pump or something. So I took my headphones off. There are owls outside our house.
Oh, is it?
And I think it's a baby owl because every now and then we hear this.
Yeah.
So it's an owl teaching its kid to, I don't know, scream.
Yeah.
interrupt live streams. Okay, right. So I've got to do the Prestige Reef Fish of the Week and the Prestige Reef Coral of the Week.
Yeah.
Well,
You can just pick any of the fish we just spoke about.
Okay, well, that's a good point. No,
Actually,
so
pick a wrasse. Pick a wrasse.
You want me to pick a wrasse?
Yeah, I've done a blonde.
Oh, okay.
Because
okay,
I know
okay.
wrasse would be the least. Like the wrasse family is the family I know the least about, so I want to learn something. So you've had loads of wrasse, haven't you?
It's kind of, but not really. And so you sometimes say, "Oh, like I'm the wrasse guy." I am not a wrasse guy at all. Like if there are levels to this,
Yeah,
and I'm very low down, so I'm not a wrasse expert at all.
Compared to me, though, you are the wrasse guy.
Well, yeah, maybe better put, but I just don't want people to think, "Oh, yeah, Reef Dork is the one to go to about wrasses," because I'm just not.
Don't pick an Naoko wrasse because that's the
one. Bastard!
I knew you were going to pick that, so don't pick that. Pick something, some sort of weird fairy wrasse that I can Google, so I learn what it is.
I'll pick a different one in that case. But the Naoko one, it's funny. So I used to have one. I had one for a few years, so he appeared in a lot of my videos.
Yeah.
And every time I get the comment, "What fish is this?" and someone will do a timestamp and tag it.
Yeah.
And I've got to the point now where I don't even click on the timestamp. I just put Naoko wrasse. And I know I'm right. And every now and then I'll just double check. It's the Naoko wrasse.
I'm going to comment on one of your videos and I'll be like, "What fish is this?" And it'll just be like a fox face.
Yeah. So there's a couple there's one that I want at the moment, and I don't know if I'll actually get it, but it's the yellow-tailed tamarin wrasse, which is from the family Anampsis.
I know what they are.
Yeah, and Anampsis are notoriously tricky to keep.
Difficult.
Yellow, tail tamarin wrasse. And I had one very briefly before that I got from another hobbyist who'd had it in his care for a couple of years, and it died more or less straight away within a couple of months in my tank. It just withered, and it was really thin. So I presume it didn't have as much pod life to eat on. I don't really know.
Yeah. There's some fish that even after all this time, we still... I know we've got so much better with lots of fish, mandarin and things like that, but some fish like those are still just very difficult to keep.
You said you wanted a flashy wrasse, or
I wanted a fairy wrasse because I don't know any fairy wrasse.
Do you know what was an Earl's wrasses?
I don't.
Excellent, because people go crazy for Earl's wrasses, like proper wrasse people, and you see them occasionally.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That looks like the sort of wrasse that will get beaten up by other wrasse. That's why I don't have other. So I always have a Melanaris and a silver belly, and Melanaris can be a bit, unfriendly towards, the more show off wrasse, like carpenter wrasse and things like that. So that's why I've just never learnt about them.
It's funny because I found that the times I've had fairy wrasses, because they're like flashing at the top, or maybe it's just flashing, I don't know, but because I think it's because they're a bit more showy.
Yeah.
Some fish don't like them, and the fish I've had that have been bullied more than any other are fairy wrasses.
Yeah.
And I've had a Naoko wrasse that got bullied to death. I've had a McCuskers wrasse that got bullied to death, and I had a Solon wrasse, red-headed koi wrasse, I think sometimes they're called, red-headed Solon
That
wrasse.
sounds fancy. I've never seen that.
They're really cool, but that also got bullied to death, and it was all. And like I don't get fish bullied to death very often. The other one I was going to say wrasse-wise is Jordan's flame wrasse.
They're the Hawaiian ones, aren't they?
Correct, but they're really cool. What was I just saying? The wrasse. Oh yeah, Solon wrasse. Solon.
It's funny because that flame wrasse, I don't know what it is when you like. Just no interest. I can appreciate it's a nice looking fish, but I wouldn't buy it. And I know, even if it was cheaper, I still wouldn't buy it. It's just not for me.
So this is a red-headed Solon wrasse.
I don't like that fish either. That fish is ugly, and it looks like it's been coloured in by a child badly.
You look like you've been coloured in by a child. God's sake, you're Philistine, Ryan. All right,
no, get that fish back up because you criticise everything I show you. You criticise. So let me
be rude to him.
I'm definitely rude to him.
So
I think it looks sickly. I know what they are. I've seen them in shops. They look sickly.
Brilliant.
It's the face and like the sort of greeny body. They look like unhealthy other wrasse.
Colourblind. They're amazing. I love them. I think they're so cool. They're blue, and you don't get many blue fish, so they're cool. You're wrong.
I had quite a few people ask about my blue assessor recently. Actually, I've never seen a fish like that. That's because you don't see it because it blends in with the background.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that is the Reef Dork several fish of the week. You've had about 10. You've had about 10 off.
True.
So,
True.
And I've now got to do the Reef Dork coral of the week, haven't I?
Yeah.
What's the Reef Dork coral going to be? I'm going to go on your website. Actually, I know what the Reef Dork coral. Oh, this might have been the Prestige Reef coral of the week before.
That maybe. It's a shame that's the picture. The picture is so much better actually on my Instagram.
So I need to come and see you at some point because I want one of these. It's really nice. This is a pink. Would you call it pink platy gyre? Pink platy, maize coral, and that's a really nice coral. Well, I've seen that in the flesh. I was like, I want it, but you said no one's really bought it.
That was in my latest video, and I've had a few people buy it since then. And also, people buy it when they see it, but they're not buying it based on that picture. And I just have a quick look at how far down on my Instagram is. Yeah, so it's only like 10 down, and you can see a much what it actually looks like.
Prestige Reef, there she be.
It's funny because when I put that picture up, people are like, "Oh, when are you selling it?" And now it's on there. People aren't buying it.
Don't want it. I can't see it. Oh yeah, this one.
Yeah, that's a much better picture of it than the close-up one. It gives it that. So yeah, Jamie's got a piece. So actually, Jamie, I don't know if you heard the start of this live stream, but I might be pressing the emergency help button soon with regards to that tank, the one that's leaking everywhere. So don't you worry, you can have your free piece, but might need some help.
There you go. Okay, I'm tempted to do another coral, but I need to calm down because I'm showing my inexperience in the Fish of the Week and Coral of the Week stakes because I send up like 30.
No, what was the other coral? I'm intrigued.
No, it's gone now.
I'm busy. Sorry.
Yeah. Koi wrasse. It's also known as a koi wrasse, the red-headed Solon wrasse, whatever. There's loads of names.
Yeah.
So that is it, and that means we're on to the news. What were you going to say?
I can just sit back and like relax after the Tang talk.
This is true, yeah. A lot of chat.
Also, I'm in a pretty good space at the moment. I can feel like I've got quite a lot of energy at the moment. So let's see how quickly you drain that with your equipment talk.
Well, there's not much news, which is good news.
Yeah.
And I scoured the internet trying to find more news, but there just isn't much. And there are two things, Ryan. And the first thing I know there's one thing you love more than a new LED light, and even more than a new brown goby from the Pacific Islands.
Well, I quite like seeing new fish.
Yeah, little brown goby though. No one cares about.
Yeah, true.
And that's auto top offs for nano tanks.
Oh, God. How did you know? How did you know that was my weakness?
So Tunzi are about the most reliable brand by reputation for auto top offs in the hobby, have brought out or bringing out the Osmolator 3 Nano Edition, which has got a 5-year warranty, which is pretty good going. They recommend it for tanks up to 250 litres, 66 US gallons. And it's got the same the pump that the existing Osmolator, the main Osmolator has. So I've had one of those pumps. It's so much better than the old Tunzi pump. The old one was horrible. It was either really loud or quite loud, whereas this one is much, much, much quieter. Really, really good. So that's good. There's a new one out. I don't know how much it is. Probably relatively expensive. I think it was about 120 quid before. So semi-expensive, but they are really good.
I always wonder why there needs to be a nano variety of those, because as your water evaporates, you only need to put in a tiny amount back. So
if it pours it in too quickly, then I'm guessing it would give the sensor issues, or it would overdo. I don't really know, but I feel like it needs a lower flow rate. Would you use the same pump for a 50-litre tank as you would for a 500-litre tank? That makes sense.
No, because that would be too small.
They're all exactly.
Yeah, but you could use the bigger one. I suppose the only thing is you might be using a smaller reservoir with a.
Would you use an Ecotech Vectra L1 for a 50-litre nano tank as your return pump and just turn it down? No. And also, actually, the sensors.
I like how you just keep talking, so I can't come. I can't like.
Would you drive to work in an HGV, Ryan?
Yeah.
Stupid question, just to make a point. But no, the other thing is, so I've had both the old Osmolator Nano and the old Osmolator, and I've had the new pump. And the Osmolator Nano has got less equipment than less stuff that goes in your tank than the Osmolator. So it's got a really small sensor, so it doesn't take up much space in your rear sump chamber or whatever. Whereas the Osmolator, the proper full-on Osmolator, it's got like 10 feet of sensors and that sort of stuff. So,
what I want to know, could you use the Nano version on a 1,000-litre tank?
It would probably be too slow. Because that with a Tunzi Osmolator, after a certain amount of time,
how can it be slower than evaporation?
Because after a certain amount of time of being turned on, the little pump will turn itself off automatically. It'll be like, no, I've been on too long. There must be a problem. So I'll cut off. It's got a redundancy. So maybe, I don't know. Either way, just don't listen to Ryan. Listen to Tunzi. If you've got a nano tank, get the nano. If you've got a big tank, get the big one. And there's a new one. There you go. And the other thing, this was funny. So I did my review of the Jekod DMP40 this week. I decided, you know what? Everybody's going crazy about it. Let's just get it out now. And actually, I decided also I wasn't going to keep it in my tank long term. As much as anything, it doesn't make sense. I've got one Jekod and 3 Vortex. Don't make any sense. I'd rather have them all the same on the same app and all that sort of stuff. And also, if I was going to switch over to them, I'd have to spend the money, have to buy them.
Yeah.
When I've already got, so if I was starting from scratch, it would be a different story. But if there's no point spending 700-800 quid or whatever it is to replace Powerheads that I've already got. So So I just thought, you know what, let's get the video done, and then I can get that out of my tank, because having 3 Powerheads on one side of your tank looks ridiculous. And I had a look at, I watched all the other reviews to make sure I wasn't saying anything outrageous, and I think most people generally agreed with the things I was saying. So, and that was mostly the case. But I came across, I looked at the Reef Builders article, and currently it is showing this article is temporarily unavailable due to legal action. I don't know what that legal action is. I don't know if that's legal action against Reef Builders or against Jekod or against someone else. I presume it's by Ecotech. I've got no idea, but I just thought that was interesting. I did think maybe I could get in touch with Jeremy Gay, friend of the show, Jeremy Gay, and ask him if he knows. But I thought, well, if he does know, he probably wouldn't want to tell me. I'd rather not put him in that position anyway.
Yeah.
And if they did want to, if they wanted to say, they'd say.
So basically, you're now waiting for the letter to come through your post box saying they're coming for you as well now.
I'd be surprised. Well, I've just made a review. I'd be surprised if they started going after all the YouTubers, and because I'd just be surprised. You don't want to, but then you don't want to. I don't know who it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say you don't even know what it is. You don't know what.
that's assuming that Ecotech have emailed Reef Builders and said this must stop immediately, which might not be the case. It might be that they've discovered that there's action going on against Jekyll, or I don't know. But this must be because there's been talk about whether it's that there's a patent still live or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've got no idea. There's not really any point in speculating. But maybe Ecotech are going after Jekyll, and Reef Builders have got wind of that and have down tools. I don't know. But I don't really know. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
So there's obviously something going on.
Yep, something is going on.
that is the news. Something's going on.
You've kept me so well, so far so good. So people are saying in the chat that the life force drain. That's actually wrong this time. Normally I would agree with you, but this time actually it was quite interesting.
You're doing all right, yeah.
There's nothing else I can add to it. There's nothing else I can say. Do you see what I mean? It's just we don't know any more information.
No, indeed. But there's something going on. I don't think I'm not expecting an email to say from anybody to say take your video down. At the end of the day, if that did happen with any video whatsoever, any review, I'm not going to make a stand and fight a legal case for the sake of having a video up, But
there
I
are some
wouldn't expect
companies that do go after YouTubers. Like
I've seen,
Like I think Nintendo do it. I'm not sure what they do it for. Like if something gets leaked or something like that, they go after them. But
that's fair. Yeah, I think if you're leaking stuff, that's fair. You should get, because that's if you're doing something wrong, it's fair for a company to come after you and tell you. I did see there was one. I think it was a hi-fi, or it was like a separate hi-fi system, where this guy said he'd had a cease and desist letter from the hi-fi company, and it turned out the hi-fi company was being really dodgy, and he fought it. He was like, "No, I'm not. It's not happening." And I think, to be honest, if I got on for any video whatsoever from anybody messaged me saying I want you to take that down, if I'd posted a critical review, for example, I wouldn't receive that well. It would piss me off. I might fold. I might fight it, because at the end of the day, I've got some experience in litigation. But what that really tells you is, you don't want to be involved in it.
True.
So that's the one thing I learned from my time in the industry, was you don't want to be involved in it. So I don't think I don't know. It would piss me off, but I'd probably just say, okay, fair enough. There's more important things in life to worry about.
That's what I was going to say. Nothing really matters. Nothing, like hardly anything in this world actually matters.
Especially when it comes down to YouTube. And I mean, the hobby doesn't really matter, but it matters a fair amount. But YouTube videos about the hobby matter even less. Obviously, yours and mine are really important.
No. Like even ours are not that important. I know you're just joking, but
no, I know.
Mine especially are not important.
Yeah. But there we go. There's some speculation in the chat, but who knows? I'll report back when I hear more.
There you go.
And that concludes the news. So there we go. That is the news, and there's not really anything going on in the news at the moment, annoyingly. We've had a few weeks where there's been busy news, lots of stuff coming out, and now there's nothing. So that's how it goes. Anything else Tang related? There are no facts here. Good reminder, as always. Anything else Tang related or otherwise that you would like to discuss, Ryan?
The only thing that I would say is that they're one of the fish where acclimation boxes are essential. They're the ones. The acclimation box is to protect your other fish from them. Tangs usually go in relatively early into a tank because they deal with algae for you. So people aren't realizing, or maybe they do realize, but they cause you trouble down the line. So the only thing I wanted to add was that an acclimation box can make a massive difference. And obviously the other thing is, when it comes to tangs, research which ones are more prone to disease than others, because they can be either a delight or an absolute massive problem for you. So yellow tang, a delight, one of the best fish you can get in this hobby. Most of the time, can be slightly aggressive if they're one of the first fish in there. Powder blue tangs, probably not for everyone. I like mine, but they are white spot magnets and aggressive, and they go on hunger strike. So this is what I mean. If you want a tang, choose wisely.
So speaking of acclimation boxes, I've ordered this one. I've just put the link in the chat. I've ordered this one, and this sold out. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. It's sold out, but they've got 3 more in stock. So if you go onto Amazon, if you don't want to click on the link, Reefing Art Magnetic Acclimation Box. The reason I went for this one is because it's big, 16 inches by 6 inches by 8 inches, and all the other ones I could find were less than a foot. And it's quite expensive. It's 70 quid, but there are a couple of these in stock, and they sold out really quickly last time. So if you want one, then go onto Amazon and search Reefing Art Magnetic Acclimation Breeder Box.
They although they're £70, you'll keep it forever. And think of the amount of fish that you might kill if you don't have one. It's not worth it. Hardly any fish these days are that cheap. Like I'm not saying you can't get a fish under £70, but if you have 2 fish, like when was the last, they're about 30 quid those fish these days, I think.
Yeah. Indeed.
So yeah.
Good stuff. Anything else you would like to discuss, Ryan?
No, nothing else. Don't think you did so well, and then my attention went when you brought up acclimation boxes. So
no, really, but you brought them up.
When you start showing it. So
I see. Okay, weird.
Same as always. Anything I'll ask is for people to go make me happy and buy coral, and you go buy that pink platter gyro before it's all gone.
Yeah, don't buy them all.
Yeah, don't you worry, I'll save you one. So it's
excellent.
I think there's only 2 left on the website actually. I think. So
happy days.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Well, thanks for joining, guys. I've got an idea for next week that involves more homework for Ryan.
Oh, good. Good. Although, to be fair, I actually quite enjoyed this one. Some of the ones that I'm less invested in are more difficult to do. So I actually quite enjoyed this one, even though I did the homework 10 minutes before the live stream.
Well, that's fine. The idea I've got is for the Prestige Reef's fastest growing corals.
That should be pretty easy. They're the ones that are the most pain in the ass for me to deal with.
Yeah. Wicked. We'll do that. So we will see you next week, guys. Cheers. Bye.
See you later. Bye.